There was a time in history when nearly all of Europe trembled in fear at one name: Napoleon Bonaparte, a small man, yet one who nearly conquered the entire world. From a lonely boy on the island of Corsica, Napoleon rose to become the most powerful emperor in France, a man who shook Europe with bloody wars and glorious victories. To the people of France, he was a military genius, a national hero. People called him the Giant of France. But to the rest of Europe, Napoleon Bonaparte was a nightmare. Yet behind all the glory lay ambition, war, and tragedy that changed history forever. Napoleon's early years. Napoleon Bonaparte was born as Napoleon di Bonaparte on August 15, 1769, in Ajaccio on the island of Corsica, a land that once belonged to Italy and was later annexed by France. Napoleon was the second son in a family of 8 children born to Carlo Buonaparte and Letizia Ramolino. From a young age, Napoleon was small, thin, and highly sensitive. He was often mocked and bullied by other children, which gradually made him lonely and withdrawn. While other children spent their time playing together, Napoleon began to dream of glory and power. At school, Napoleon achieved average results in most subjects, but he was exceptionally talented in mathematics. In 1784, he was admitted to the Military Academy of Paris to study artillery. Not long afterward, his father died, leaving the family in severe financial hardship. At the end of 1785, Napoleon graduated with the rank of second lieutenant and was assigned to the La Fère Artillery Regiment stationed in Valence, a training ground for young artillery officers in France. During this period, Napoleon spent most of his time reading books about military tactics and strategy. He was especially fascinated by the works of Voltaire and Rousseau. Not only that, Napoleon also began writing and recording his thoughts in a collection titled Letters on Corsica, where he expressed his deep feelings for his homeland. In September 1786, Napoleon returned to Corsica. But by then, France was slowly descending into chaos as political tensions continued to rise. Napoleon believed that a historic war was about to begin. The rise of Napoleon. On July 14, 1789, the French Revolution erupted with the goal of overthrowing the absolute monarchy. The revolution shook the whole of Europe. Napoleon Bonaparte actively joined the Jacobin faction, a political group that supported liberty and brotherhood. At the time, he held only the rank of lieutenant. Fearing the spread of revolutionary ideas, the monarchies of Europe quickly formed alliances to attack France. While the revolutionary armies continued to win victories, the city of Toulon in southern France remained occupied by royalist forces and the British Army. In October 1793, Napoleon was promoted to captain and placed in command of the artillery during the siege of Toulon. This became the first major opportunity for him to demonstrate his extraordinary military talent. By the end of the year, Napoleon successfully drove the British forces out of Toulon. That remarkable victory made the name Napoleon Bonaparte known throughout France. Sometime later, royalist forces launched an uprising in Paris, throwing the city into chaos. The government quickly appointed Napoleon as assistant to the commander of the Paris National Guard. With artillery under his command, Napoleon rapidly crushed the rebellion. From that moment on, his path to power began to open. In 1796, Britain, Russia, and Austria joined forces against France. Napoleon was appointed commander of the French army sent to invade Italy. In a remarkably short time, he crushed the Austrian forces in Italy and advanced to the outskirts of Vienna, forcing Austria to sign an armistice agreement. Napoleon's victorious army returned to Paris in glorious triumph. By then, he had become the young general admired throughout France. Determined to completely weaken Britain, the French government decided in 1798 to invade Egypt in order to block British expansion toward India. Napoleon was appointed commander of the expeditionary force and quickly captured Egypt. He brought with him more than 35,000 soldiers, along with experts from many different fields, including famous mathematicians and scientists. Amid the deserts of Egypt, Napoleon's army achieved a decisive victory over the Mamluks in the famous Battle of the Pyramids, further spreading his reputation across Europe. First Consul of France. On August 22, 1799, Napoleon secretly left Egypt and returned to France, arriving safely on October 14th of the same year. News of his victories in Egypt caused the French people to enthusiastically welcome the young hero. On November 9th and 10th, 1799, Napoleon and his allies carried out the famous coup d'etat, dissolved the old government, and established the consulate. A new constitution was approved, and Napoleon became the first consul of France. After years of chaos caused by the revolution, the French people longed for a strong leader. Napoleon quickly concentrated power into his own hands. He reformed the administrative system, stabilized the national economy, built roads and canals, and helped restore France's financial strength. For the peasants, Napoleon redistributed land for farming and abolished many feudal taxes. He also guaranteed equality before the law and introduced major educational reforms. Dominating Europe. After rising to power, Napoleon became the terror of all Europe. Unable to defeat Britain through military force, he launched a massive economic war designed to blockade British trade throughout Europe. To maintain this strategy, Napoleon was forced to control key coastal regions across Germany, Italy, Spain, and Norway. Many nations rose up against the French armies, but all were swiftly crushed. By 1812, Napoleon gathered nearly 650,000 troops and launched the invasion of Russia, the largest military campaign of his career. Mainly because Russia was no longer complying with France's economic blockade against Britain across Europe. However, the Russians were determined to resist at all costs. Under the command of General Mikhail Kutuzov, the Russian army inflicted devastating losses during the bloody Battle of Borodino. Afterward, the brutal winter and the scorched earth strategy left Napoleon Bonaparte's army suffering from hunger, disease, and exhaustion. By the time they retreated from Russia, the once mighty Grand Army that had terrified all of Europe was almost completely annihilated, with only about 100,000 men remaining. The fall of Napoleon. After the disastrous failure of the invasion campaign in Russia, Napoleon's empire began to collapse. Hundreds of thousands of French soldiers perished in the brutal winter. The once invincible army of Napoleon could no longer withstand the combined attacks of Europe's great powers. Sensing that the moment had come, the major European nations formed an alliance and launched a massive campaign against France. In early 1814, coalition forces marched into Paris. The French capital officially fell. With no other choice left, Napoleon was forced to abdicate. He was exiled to the island of Elba, a small island off the coast of Italy. Soon after, the Bourbon monarchy under King Louis XVIII was restored. But in France, not everyone accepted the return of the new king. Many civilians, and especially the soldiers, remained loyal to Napoleon. They believed that only he could return France to its former glory. And then, the unexpected happened. In March 1815, Napoleon secretly escaped from Elba and returned to France. The government immediately sent troops to arrest him. But instead of opening fire, many French soldiers shouted, "Long live the Emperor!" One by one, entire military units joined Napoleon's side. Without firing a single shot, he marched straight to Paris and reclaimed the throne of France. Napoleon's return sent shockwaves across Europe. The great powers quickly formed the Seventh Coalition and mobilized armies from all directions to invade France. Even so, Napoleon remained a terrifying military genius. In the opening battles, he successfully defeated several enemy forces. But a decisive battle was waiting ahead. It was the Battle of Waterloo, fought on June 18, 1815, near Waterloo in present-day Belgium, where the French army faced the British-led coalition and its allies. The battle was incredibly fierce. At first, the French repeatedly pressured enemy lines. But in the end, the arrival of the Prussian army completely changed the course of the battle. Napoleon's army was decisively defeated. Waterloo became the final battle of his military career. After this defeat, Napoleon was forced to abdicate for the second time on June 22, 1815. The mighty empire that had once terrified all of Europe had finally fallen. Napoleon's last exile. After abdicating the throne, Napoleon Bonaparte was exiled to the island of St. Helena on October 15, 1815. From that moment on, he returned to a dull and isolated daily life. Each day, he usually woke up around 10 a.m. and rarely left his house. Napoleon was allowed to move freely around the island, but only under the supervision of a British officer who had to accompany him at all times. St. Helena was a remote island with a harsh climate and extreme isolation. For a man who had conquered nearly all of Europe for more than 20 years, living alone and imprisoned on such a distant island was an unbearable fate. By the end of 1817, Napoleon began to show signs of stomach cancer. In 1821, his condition became far more serious. In April of that year, he dictated his final will, which included the words, "I wish my ashes to rest on the banks of the Seine, among the French people whom I have loved so much." Napoleon also believed that he had been killed by the British government. On May 5, 1821, the former emperor died at 5:49 in the afternoon, just before reaching the age of 52. His final words were believed to be, "France, the army, head of the army, Josephine." Napoleon's body was dressed in his favorite military uniform and covered with the gray cloak he had worn during many of his famous battles. His funeral was held quietly in a small valley on St. Helena, a place where he often took walks during his final years. His grave was placed beside two willow trees marked only by a simple stone. In 1840, the French government brought Napoleon's remains back to Paris, where he was buried at Les Invalides. Even today, there are many monuments dedicated to Napoleon throughout France. His military tactics and campaigns continue to be studied in military academies around the world. Thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed the content, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss our upcoming videos.